Hello friends, it's Ashen Prime here to record a submission video for RPG Limit Break 2024. Yes, I make these bespoke each year because otherwise I don't actually pick up the game. Let's get right into it. This is Final Fantasy 15, the endgame dungeon Pitioss, and we'll go 3, 2, 1, go. Yes, I am using the RPG Limit Break layout because I have access to it and thought it would be endearingly cheeky. You can let me know if I was right or not. What is Pitioss? That's probably the first thing we should talk about. Where are we? Why are we here? This is an endgame dungeon in Final Fantasy 15, and one of the only pieces of content in the game. I can't even make that jump with knives. Things I'm learning now. One of the only pieces of content in the game to feature platforming. Everything else, obviously, is pretty combat focused or story focused, and then this exists with no story or combat to speak of, which is an interesting choice in Final Fantasy 15 because the movement mechanics aren't great. I'm fond of saying that we don't, as a player, actually control Noctis directly. We just kind of give him suggestions, and then he does whatever he wants in relation to those. Mostly based on, you know, animation cycles and how all that works. We do have a couple things we can animation cancel out of, specific recovery animations we can get out of, but for the most part, if he's on the track to walk off a cliff, well, he's walking off that cliff, unfortunately. The next thing to discuss is the category. You'll notice it says that we are in all plates here. We are long past the point where we could do an any % route. In fact, if we were doing any %, we'd probably already be done. Yes, it's just that quick. Sometimes, yep, nope. I even lined that up and then still went right in the middle and fell off. The any % route for Pitioss takes about 2 minutes. For a particularly slow run even. Whereas this is all plates, we're going to be doing the entire dungeon. And it'll take us about 30 minutes based on the estimate there. Any %, the Pitioss dungeon is laid out in such a way that the entrance is very near the exit. And the thing keeping the two apart is an impenetrable wall and a particularly long jump that cannot be made by normal means. And the mechanic that can let you make that jump is one that I have not mastered and just straight up cannot do. So instead of doing any %, I've made up all plates. And also because I really like the dungeon, honestly, and like to be able to show the whole thing off rather than just the first couple of corridors. And so all plates will take us through the entire dungeon. That is not to say that we won't be skipping past some things. We aren't using that specific mechanic, but like this jump is a bit farther than I should be able to do, but if I swing my daggers at just the right time, Noctis is able to get over it just fine. Alright. So now we're just kind of in the midst of things. There's a lot of waiting on cycles, waiting on set pieces to move here and there. Some things that, you know, I may have the right cycle for. Most things, if I get the right cycle, it's mostly luck, because I am not honestly skilled enough to move consistently enough to always get everything on the same cycle. And there are some things that just start moving at the beginning of the dungeon, and some things, like in this room, you saw that they didn't start moving until I got in here, so those are pretty consistently. I know where those two big spiky cylinders at the front will be pretty consistently when I get in. But and here in the next room also, it doesn't start moving until we get in here. But the room after this, there's some platforms that could go around that I don't know when they start their cycle. I just know that I always somehow seem to get in there at just the wrong time. Except for the times that I've gotten there at just the right time. So that's fun. Interestingly, you can move Noctis in cutscenes. You have to be very aware of... Oh, sure. Yep, let's just jump off of that. Have to be very aware of which direction the camera is facing though, because the movement controls are in relation to the camera. So if I press left, it's not Noctis's left, it's the camera's left. Which makes sense when I'm hovering around him in third person like this. It is a little bit trickier to contemplate and figure out when the camera is whipping around in a cutscene. So it's not every cutscene in the dungeon that I'm able to take advantage of it, but there are several that I do, like the one right before we came into this room. And here we're sitting waiting on a platform again. There it is. Surrounded by spikes and dangerously close to falling into a void. Speaking of, another interesting thing I guess about this dungeon is that when you die, you don't actually die. You just get sent back to a checkpoint. And these checkpoints are different in each area of the dungeon. The one in this room is right at the front door, which is really helpful, because as I drop onto this button, the camera swings around, but I'm still able to move in that cutscene, so I run Noctis into the spikes, get teleported to the door, and then I'm at the door as the cutscene ends. You may have noticed that I jumped twice there, or it sounded like I got teleported twice. Sometimes on the first teleport, it just doesn't actually move you, so I always jump twice there, and sometimes I have to. Here I make use of the fact that the dagger spin also hovers a little bit, so I didn't really need the forward momentum. I needed it a little bit, but more what I needed there was the hovering to make Noctis not fall as quickly, so that I could get underneath the spikes, but then land on the platform of this giant set piece. We'll be coming in and out of this giant set piece. This is our third time now that we're interacting with it, and then we'll come around, we'll leap across the chasm over here, and then wait for it to come back to us for the fourth jump onto it. This room has a particularly mean checkpoint. The checkpoint for this room doesn't matter where you void out in this room, the checkpoint is at the very beginning of the room. That door we came in when Noctis said whoa the first time you see the giant skull face coming forward at you. And so I have to be particularly cautious in here, because as it is, we're only about halfway done with this room so far. And as I come down here, I'm going to just open up this shortcut, so that if we void out from this point on, we don't have to redo the whole room, only half of it. And I can say that that's for marathon safety, but I'll be honest, I always open that door. Theoretically, if I wanted a super tight PB, I wouldn't, but I'm just not consistent enough at this dungeon to even be going for... if there were leaderboards, I wouldn't even be going for those leaderboards. I'd still just be going for, you know, personal gratification and finishing the dungeon under 25 minutes, ideally. On that note, yes, the estimate is 30 minutes. I just said that I'd like to finish it in under 25. On a good run, I usually can. On a great run, I'm usually close to around like 21. But I also have some really bad runs, and honestly, the only difference I've ever seen between them is how annoyed they make me as I continue to fail. Because once I start going, I just kind of keep going, unfortunately. But even those ones, generally 30 minutes is a good enough time for me to finish a particularly poor run of Pitioss. Now, obviously, it's perfectly feasible that I could be stuck here forever if there's just like some jump that I just cannot get. Because you do have to be able to... Need to get back. You do have to be able to platform to get through this dungeon. You have to. There's no alternative. There are no shortcuts, or there are no forward-moving shortcuts. All the shortcuts are behind you. You can go back and open up a shortcut that you don't have to traverse the same area again if you wanted to get out of someplace specific. But in order to make forward progress, there's always some tricky bits. Like this whole tilted room here. This tilted space. There's no real skips through this that I've found. Now, part of that might be that I'm not looking very hard, but there's just a fairly straightforward climbing up and down some interesting inclines, usually fairly slowly, and then making jumps that don't look like they should be tricky, but they kind of are, so I swing the knives anyway just to make sure that I make it. Alright. Man. This 45-degree angle platforming is weird. Like, it's just he moves so oddly, and, you know, third-person platforming maybe just isn't for me. Maybe I should go back to 2D platforming. That's my one joke, by the way. Still workshopping it, so, you know, if you have any critiques, let me know about them. Here, this cycle has gotten... Nope. The standing up is the hardest part here, and then getting to the circle in time. If I land in such a place that I'm not having to pick up that item and I can jump right away, then usually I go a little bit faster. But it is actually, I say it's 2D, it's actually 3D. You can see as I fall off the edge here. But one of the interesting things is that if there's an item that you have to pick up, you can't jump. The fact that this is right next to a ledge tells you that the developers knew that. And were being little trolls about it. And that happens more than one time in this dungeon, where there's an item right where you need to jump, so you have to stop, pick it up, and then jump. And I use the U in the context of the player. It's a bad habit I should break myself out of.
Unbelievable.
This room is a good spot to talk about the any percent skip, because there is a skip in this room that uses the same thing. Now, I mentioned earlier, I cannot perform that skip, so you are not going to be seeing it from me in this run. But the gist of it is that stamina bar that you just saw disappear on Noctis, and you'll see again as I have him run across this here, is technically unlimited. Because yes, it goes down, but if you press the sprint button again at just the right time, it refills all the way. And when it refills all the way, Noctis does a little dash forward. And that little dash forward, if timed correctly, and in conjunction with the dagger spin, can get Noctis over gaps that are too big to jump on their own, or even jump with dagger spin. And that's what the 80% route takes advantage of. You can use that dash in a certain spot to get across a ledge, and then you're basically at the end of the dungeon. In this room, all of this riding around that I've done on this set piece here can be skipped with that mechanic. Now, the problem with putting the explanation in that room like I just did is that then I always forget to warn about that sound warning. So that's fun. Now, I'm about to fall down a ramp here. You notice that I'm approaching it gingerly because that invisible wall is the bane of my existence. I don't know why that invisible wall is there. It's sometimes not there. I used to say that it's usually not there, but I found recently that it's there more times than it's not, and I very much dislike it. And if I don't line up just perfectly before I go down that ramp, then it'll knock me off the edge and I have to redo the entire room again. So I always line up a little bit carefully there now before I jump down. Alright. Now that ramp took us down a bit. The 2D section, the 2D platformer section, took us down quite a lot. And then we just had that elevator ride up, and now as we fall down here we notice, oh, we're right above the statue. So we must be in the rafters of the dungeon, right? Well, that would appear appropriate. We're walking across structural beams. As we come over here, we're actually going to jump on the back of a particularly ugly gargoyles. Gargoyles live at the top of cathedrals and dungeons and the like. Oh, I saw the camera change. That means that I can turn around and jump up there. Should somebody be able to jump up there without turning around? Probably. That somebody is not me. But yeah, definitely up in the upper reaches of the dungeon. We must be in like some ventilation shaft or something, even if with that really ornate door. Oh no. We're at ground level. We're at the ground level where we entered the dungeon earlier. In fact, that hole there to this platform we're about to jump on, that is the jump that the any percent route makes. It's over to here. And then it has another couple of skips that make it really short. We're not taking those skips, so we've still got probably 4 to 5 minutes left of this dungeon at this point. And as we come through here, moving very carefully, it is surprisingly difficult to walk Noctis in a straight line, as evidenced by the number of times they make you do it in this blasted dungeon. When you come over here, you can notice there's a lot of buttons around that we need to go around and hit, so we're going to go around and we're going to do those, because that's the name of this category. Now, because of that, we actually need to backtrack a little. So I've opened up this shortcut, and we'll come down here and we'll open up another shortcut.
Great. Just great.
And when I get around here, you may recognize this scenery as the room where we entered in the first place. And if we come back up here, we come to a couple of plates that should have been like the second and third plate we ever hit. But we skipped them. And so instead of hitting them then, we're going to hit them now. Because again, that's the name of the category, gotta press all the plates. Stand on all the buttons? I don't know. I kind of use button and plate interchangeably, even though these things are gigantic, and they're definitely a plate, but sometimes I just call them buttons, because that's more fun. You'll do. Ooh, that one's close. So these platforms are, these jumps even, are very similar to other jumps that we have made in the dungeon. They're just smaller platforms to land on, so they're trickier jumps to make. We're coming down here. We're going to open up another couple of shortcuts. These ones are purely for safety. And it is my dearest hope that I don't have to use these shortcuts. But I've been burned enough times that I'm not leaving them closed. And then we get up into this fun little section here.
Yes.
No, don't do it. Ah. There wasn't any real reason for me to swing the knives there, except that I didn't think I could make that jump. I always have to usually take a couple steps forward. But then the swinging of the knives caused him to step backwards and fall off the ledge. Now this particular plate is really annoying, because the only way to get on this plate is from this rock outcropping that I'm standing on. Well, that's not the worst thing. Except that then the only way to get onto this door, which is the next step, by the way, is from this plate. So if I had missed that jump, or if I missed the jump to the next plate from here, which is right there, nope, got it. But if I had missed any of those jumps along there, I would have then had to go back all around through that room and those shortcuts that we opened up to get back to it. It is one of the most annoying spots to try and recover from. Not impossible. It's not impossible to recover from any specific point in this dungeon. That's just one of the more annoying ones. Okay, so we've only got a few more plates left. We've got this one down here, which doesn't actually progress the dungeon in any way, but we do have to hit it because, again, that's the category. It unlocks this other plate over there. And I try and walk Noctis off that platform during that cutscene, but I have yet to be successful in all of the years that I have been running this. That was interesting. There you go. And then we just kind of fall off the edge here because I feel like it's faster to go there. And again, it may not be faster, but it feels faster, and that's good enough for me. Alright, now we're near the end. We've only got 2 more plates to go. One of them will activate the elevator to get us out of here, and the other one will activate the elevator to get us out of here. So first we'll open up this shortcut here. We'll go through this opening that is created in this wall. And we'll come over here, and this is the escape elevator. This is the elevator that you came in on. If the dungeon is just too hard, you can ride that all the way out. But it wasn't too hard for me. In fact, I've conquered the dungeon. So instead, I'm going to come around this wall here and just activate this other plate on this identical looking wall and identical looking elevator to escape the dungeon and get to the exit. Time is coming up, not at the top of the elevator, but once the rest of the party joins us after I leave the building. So get ready for that. And time.
So, you solved all the puzzles?
Sure did. Fair and square. My brain hurts.
Well, then I suppose a good rest is in order.
I did not think that I had done particularly well on this run, but this is the best time that I've seen. But this is my PB. Right? Right? So I thought I might record this again to send you, if I had gotten a better one, to send you that clip. But no, you're seeing this one. Sorry, folks. The commentary wasn't up to par. Too bad. This time is too good to not share with the world. So, you know, it's going to be made publicly available rather than unlisted. That's fun. Also, worth noting, we do have a quest to come to, or to come up here, to come up to this part of the map. If we are to look at the map, we can see that we're outside of the range of the car. We actually have to fly the car over a mountain range, land on this tiny strip of yellow, then walk all the way up here to get to Pitioss. And there's a random side quest up here that kind of leads you here, that you find first in the Stalem. What's interesting is that the quest actually leads you here outside of the dungeon.
The big hall.
There is no quest
I suppose this
in the
makes us
dungeon.
legends among thieves.
Sounds pretty sweet. And doesn't look bad.
So the only reason to do the dungeon in game is you do get a pretty cool item at the end right there. I walked over it before I fell off. That's a really helpful item. Or bragging rights. But yeah, this is Final Fantasy 15's Pitioss dungeon. I really appreciate, or really like to do this dungeon, even though nobody else runs this category. I run this for me. It is how I engage with speedrunning. It's basically the only way I engage with speedrunning, if you don't count the fact that I am staff for this event. But it's the only thing that I speedrun, and every twice in a while when I am curious about it, I'll pick it up, play it again, even though nobody else runs this category. And I think there's value in that. Value for people to just find things that they enjoy and do them, regardless of whatever else anybody else is doing. And a lot of people really enjoy going for the leaderboards in speedrunning. They really enjoy finding the best tech and finding the best route and getting the best time, and that is amazing for them. I enjoy doing this. And I don't run Final Fantasy 15, but I do run Pitioss specifically because I enjoy it. And when I look down at my time and see that I've gotten under 20 for, I feel like, the first time ever, I feel very accomplished in my enjoyment of it. So a couple more things to note for the Games Committee, if you were just here to watch my PB and the fact that I did that. Thank you. A couple more notes for the Games Committee. A couple things that I would like to discuss here, as well as in the as well as what's in the actual submission itself, is possible incentives. First off, this is a 20-minute run. Estimate is still going to be 30 because, again, bad runs. But this is a 20-minute run. It is not really going to be suited for primary schedule time. I understand that. It feels like it itself should be a bonus incentive. Like, in my most ideal worlds, Final Fantasy 15 is being run, and then this is a bonus incentive at the end of the Final Fantasy 15 run. But it is not without its own joys. The other thought that I had for possible incentives is that I can play dress up with Noctis, and I can play dress up in the dungeon, which means that we could have a rolling bid war to switch him from the kind of boring outfit here to the blingy kingly raiment. You notice I'm skipping some of these. I don't think we need all of them as options. Like the thermal suit is not an option because I don't want to. But we do have like this random festive ensemble with a sombrero. That's fun. The Chocomog tee is so cute. Just why not? And then a couple of the DLC, I run this on my PS4 because they're the ones that I was able to actually get the stuff for the Assassin's Creed DLC, and I still have that. So that's fun. We got that. We got the Medjay robes as well. We've got the Final Fantasy 15 crossover if we wanted to be a Catboy. Or, of course, we got the hashtag not sponsored content as an option there as well. So yeah, hopefully the last however many minutes of this, the last 5 minutes of this since the end of the run haven't completely put you off. I'm really excited about this PB. freaking phenomenal. But thank you for your eyeballs. Thank you for your consideration. I don't have a sign off, so we're just going to stop the recording now. Bye.